Imagine being locked away for years, knowing you're innocent, and then freedom at last. The emotions are raw, explosive, and unforgettable. From tears of joy to moments of pure disbelief, these heart-stopping scenes will leave you speechless. You won't want to miss the powerful stories of redemption and strength. In today's video, we reveal the jaw-dropping reactions of 5 innocent convicts as they're finally set free. Get ready for an emotional roller coaster you'll never forget. Number 5. Luis Vargas. Falsely accused and given 55 years to life imprisonment. This is perhaps one of the most shocking cases one can describe. Luis Vargas, a 30-year older man living in Los Angeles, was accused of 3 extremely violent, sexually motivated attacks. It was almost poetic that the crimes had similar descriptions that searched for the criminal and felt as if one person was responsible for them all. Of course, Vargas was quickly brought to trial and, as a convicted criminal, sent to prison, where he bore his 16 years of incarceration for offenses he never committed. However, this was probably leveled when the California Innocence Project intervened. They discovered that the system failed to realize that Vargas was not guilty. Sensitive analysis of the traces left in evidence taken from one of the victims confirmed through the DNA test that Vargas was not the match, crushing the prosecution's case and showing the truth. Vargas sat quietly through the reading of the verdict that set him free from the horror that had become his life. When Vargas received his freedom, he only had one wish: a giant hamburger. This small but highly significant desire signified the restoration of a life that was taken from Vargas unfairly. Finally, after 16 years, he was free to join his family. For the mistake that set him back years of his life, Vargas was awarded $886,000 in state damages. However, this money could never compensate for the valuable years he lost in jail due to false accusations of criminal activities. His story should continue to serve as a testament to the dedicated work performed by the California Innocence Project and the heart-rending effects of false convictions. Number 4. David Ranta. Wrongful imprisonment is one of the most terrible outcomes of the criminal justice system, and David Ranta's case of being imprisoned for 22 years for a murder he did not commit shocked the residents of Brooklyn, New York. Accused by Detective Luis Scarcella, a name that would later become further linked to multiple wrongful convictions, Ranta was made to stand in a police lineup. Years later, it was discovered that Scarcella allegedly told a crucial source which lineup member to select. Although the critical evidence that tied Ranta to the crime was missing and fake evidence was produced in front of the jury, he was convicted and sentenced to 22 years to life imprisonment. Fast forward more than 2 decades and the truth has emerged. Some were forced to testify against Ranta, and the critical witness confessed that Scarcella had pressured his evidence. That revelation resulted in a historic event: the day of the vacated conviction in court of Ranta. The judge, understanding the apparent violation of the rights, said that merely offering an apology would understate Ranta's suffering. And as the jury's decision was declared null and void, a loud cheer went up in the packed courtroom. Ranta was now free, embraced his family, and weighed down by all his worldly things in a small bag. He was freed from all charges, and after his release, the state paid him $2 million. He got $6. $2 million of the compensation money will go to his family, while the remaining $4 million was awarded to him by the New York City for the wrongful conviction. Number 3. Daniel Villegas. After 18 years in prison, an innocent man named Daniel Villegas was released after he was framed for a double murder in El Paso, Texas. When they arrested him at the age of 16, Villegas was forced to confess by an El Paso detective, who even offered to beat him up and told him that he would be given the death penalty. Panicked and scared, the young and teenage Villegas could only agree to the confession and the concluding statements that the detectives wrote. Later in the night, he attempts to withdraw the statement, but it is too late. Thus, with the only evidence being the false confession given by him, Villegas was accused of 2 counts of capital murder. In the first trial, the jury was unable to agree. However, in the second trial, Villegas was convicted and given a life imprisonment term. He maintained his innocence for close to 2 decades, and after 18 years in prison, the sentence was suppressed. On release on bail, Villegas established his life, married, and had children. The truth dawned on him during the 3rd trial. Standing in the courtroom, Villegas awaited the jury's decision. Should he be returned to prison for the rest of his days, or should the pendulum of justice swing in his favor? The courthouse erupted in cheers when the jury said, "Not guilty." Finally, after 18 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, Villegas was released without any restrictions. He sued the city of El Paso for justice for the years taken from him in prison. Number 2. Clemente Aguirre. Clemente Aguirre's life drastically changed on the day he was convicted of 2 murders he did not commit in Altamont Springs, Florida. Just try to put yourself in his shoes, being accused of a crime, while all people around you, society, friends, colleagues, co-employees, exclude you. The only person who believes you is your mother. Aguirre had simply gone to his neighbor's house one night looking for a beer, but instead stumbled upon a gruesome scene. 2 female family members, a mother and daughter, were killed. Panic-stricken, he attempted to help them, but being an illegal immigrant from Honduras, he ran away without even calling the police. Nevertheless, Aguirre's efforts to do that left him the main suspect in the case. He was subsequently arrested, charged, and tried for first-degree murder, and by the law of the state, received the death penalty. His life was seemingly over, but almost 9 years later, advancements in DNA testing exposed the absolute truth, and his DNA was found on the scene by his testimony. He had tried to assist instead of complicating the situation. When he was finally released after serving 14 years in prison, out of which he served 11 years on death row, all the charges against him were withdrawn. He was set free from the prison, hugging his dear ones after years of torture that man cannot imagine. Although Aguirre was pardoned, it is not yet the end of his fighting. Even though he is legally entitled to $720,000 for the wrongful conviction, the state still opposes his claim. He has never received a single dollar, and the future of his immigration status is unknown, which casts a shadow over the freedom he has attained. Number 1. Clifford Williams. Suppose you wake up every morning to a life sentence behind bars for crimes you didn't commit, and there is no way out for the next 43 years. This was the reality of Clifford Williams as he, together with his nephew Nathan Myers, was unfairly convicted of a terrible crime in Jacksonville, Florida. Yet both were convicted despite their alibis and the lack of physical evidence or fingerprints linking any of the 3 men to the crime. Williams was sentenced to die and Myers to life imprisonment. The nightmare dragged on until a groundbreaking investigation finally exposed the truth. It has also been established that the ballistic evidence that sealed their fate was somewhat questionable. Now the courtroom exploded with expectations. Yes, the moment for freedom came. Williams and Myers were acquitted. The emotional clasp of the two was more of joy mixed with relief and satisfaction, having been served justice after several years of struggle. Later, the state compensated $2 million each, but no amount of money could pay for the many years lost. Let us know in the comments section which incident shocked you the most. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more thrilling moments in the courtroom.